The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who settle for mediocrity lies in a truth that most people don't want to face. Great achievers don't have fewer doubts. They simply developed the mental discipline to transform doubt into fuel for action. Dr. Joe Dispenza has uncovered a neurological breakthrough after decades of research, one that can completely reprogram the self-sabotage patterns preventing you from taking action when it matters most. What you're about to discover isn't positive thinking. It's a 7-minute scientific protocol that literally rewires the brain circuits responsible for unshakable confidence. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a world-renowned neuroscientist and best-selling author of books like Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, spent more than 30 years studying the intersection between neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum physics. His studies with more than 20,000 people around the world revealed something extraordinary. Our minds operate through automatic patterns programmed over the years, and these patterns can be completely rewritten using specific neuroplasticity-based techniques. But here's the uncomfortable truth that separates those who act from those who just dream. Traditional positive thinking fails because it ignores the neuroscience of action. While you try to motivate yourself to act, your analytical mind has already activated survival systems that interpret change as a mortal threat. It's like trying to convince a fire alarm that there's no fire. It simply won't listen. The human brain processes approximately 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and surprisingly, 90% of these thoughts are exactly the same as we had the previous day. This means your mind is literally addicted to repetitive thought patterns, including doubt patterns that question your abilities, your worth, and your potential for success. This constant repetition creates what neuroscientists call neural highways. Imagine your mind as a dense forest where each repetitive thought carves a trail. When you repeatedly doubt yourself, you're building a paved road of doubt. When you criticize yourself internally, you're expanding an avenue of self-criticism. The more these roads are traveled, the more automatic the process becomes, like a mental GPS that always chooses the same limiting path, even when better routes exist. Dr. Dispenza's revolutionary discovery: there exists a neural window lasting only a few seconds, like a moment of silence between two musical chords, where you can intercept the doubt pattern before it paralyzes your action. This window is your golden opportunity to rewrite decades of mental programming. But it only opens when you apply the correct neurological sequence, and that's exactly what you're going to learn today. Doubt arises in what we call the analytical mind, the part of the brain responsible for analyzing, criticizing, and questioning. This analytical mind is like a guardian that protects our existing patterns, even when these patterns harm us. It does this because, from an evolutionary standpoint, the known is perceived as safe even if it's limiting. When you try to make a change in your life, the analytical mind immediately activates what Dr. Dispenza calls automatic survival programs. It's like having a paranoid security guard inside your brain that sounds the alarm whenever you approach the door of change. These programs generate thoughts like, "This won't work. You've tried before and failed. People like you can't achieve this. It's better to stay safe than to take risks." These aren't your real thoughts. They're programs running automatically, like software installed in your brain over the years. And here's the fascinating part. These programs don't distinguish between real danger and imaginary danger. To your primitive mind, the risk of failing in a new endeavor is interpreted with the same intensity as the risk of being attacked by a predator. The result? Your nervous system is flooded with stress hormones whenever you think about leaving your comfort zone. It's as if your body can't distinguish between facing a lion in the savannah and sending an important email. Cortisol and adrenaline are released in the same way, creating that familiar sensation of anxiety, tension, and doubt you feel when you're about to take an important step toward your dreams. But here's where Dr. Dispenza's discovery changes everything. He identified that there exists a specific time window, lasting only a few seconds, where we can intercept this automatic process before it completes. It's in this window that lies the mental trick you're about to learn. The great industrialists, inventors, and visionaries who transformed our world didn't choose the easy path. Instead, they embraced obstacles. Thomas Edison transformed more than 1,000 failures into stepping stones to the success of the light bulb. Henry Ford went bankrupt twice before creating the Ford Motor Company. The Wright brothers were ridiculed by experts of the time who claimed that humans would never fly. Want to know the secret of these historical giants? It wasn't the absence of doubt. They felt doubt just like everyone else. The difference is that they developed a neurological mechanism to transform doubt into fuel for action, like an alchemist turning base metal into gold. Instead of letting doubt paralyze them, they used it as a signal that they were on the right path. This is exactly the mechanism Dr. Dispenza codified in his revolutionary method. Using functional magnetic resonance imaging, he mapped precisely what happens in the brain when someone employs this specific mental technique. The results were remarkable. Within weeks, people practicing this technique showed measurable changes in brain structure. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and conscious decision-making, showed increased activation. Meanwhile, the limbic system, responsible for automatic emotional responses, showed reduced reactivity. In simple terms, the brain literally rewires itself to be less emotionally reactive and more capable of making decisions based on clear objectives. But here's something even more fascinating. People who mastered this technique didn't just overcome their doubt patterns. They developed what Dr. Dispenza calls elevated heart coherence. Their heart and brain began operating in perfect synchronization, creating a state of mental clarity and emotional energy they never knew was possible. Imagine waking up every day with absolute certainty that you can achieve any goal you set. Imagine making important decisions without that inner voice constantly questioning your choices. Imagine feeling unshakable confidence that doesn't depend on external circumstances or other people's approval. You might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. But this isn't fantasy. It's the natural neurological state that emerges when doubt patterns are replaced by patterns of certainty and focused action. It's like upgrading from an obsolete operating system to a premium version. Same machine, completely transformed capabilities. The method you're about to learn involves 3 specific neural pathways that must be activated in a precise sequence. The first pathway deactivates the alarm system of the analytical mind. The second pathway reprograms the automatic emotional response. And the third pathway installs new self-confidence programs that operate automatically. When these 3 pathways are activated in the correct order, something extraordinary happens. The brain enters that expanded present moment that Dr. Dispenza discovered. It's like accessing your mind's main control panel. Suddenly, you're no longer a passenger of your thoughts, but the pilot. In this state, you have direct access to the programming mechanisms of the subconscious mind. This is where true transformation happens. But wait, what I'm about to reveal now will surprise you even more. The beauty of this process is that it works regardless of your personal history, your education, your age, or your past experiences. It works because it's based on universal principles of how the human nervous system operates. You don't need to believe it will work. It functions automatically when you apply the technique correctly. Let me share some real examples documented by Dr. Dispenza. CEOs who overcame fear of failure and built Fortune 500 companies, artists who conquered imposter syndrome and created breakthrough works, people who freed themselves from toxic relationships and found true love. Even more impressive, individuals who healed conditions considered incurable by doctors, not through magic, but through conscious neural reprogramming. The common denominator? They all consistently applied this specific technique over a focused period, transforming decades-old limitations into springboards for a new reality. But here's a crucial discovery. It's not necessary to practice for hours. In fact, very long sessions can be counterproductive. The ideal practice period is surprisingly short, but must be applied with precision. The reason this technique is so powerful is related to what neuroscientists call directed neuroplasticity. Instead of waiting for changes to happen gradually over months or years, you're deliberately directing neural changes to where they need to happen. Here's something that will fascinate you. The results you're about to discover challenge everything we think we know about the time needed for real change. It's like being the chief architect of your own mind, redesigning neural circuits according to your conscious intentions. Instead of being just a tenant living in a mental house that others built for you, you become the owner who renovates everything according to your vision. To be an effective architect of your mind, you need to understand a fundamental principle. This mental technique only works when you understand exactly why it's working. It's not enough to simply follow the steps mechanically. You need to understand the neurological logic behind each step, because this understanding activates specific brain areas that are essential for the technique's success. When your analytical mind understands the why, it stops resisting the process and instead becomes your ally in transformation. This dramatically accelerates results and makes changes far more permanent. In the next few minutes, I'm going to guide you through each of the 3 neural pathways that make up this revolutionary method. You'll learn exactly how to identify the precise moment to apply each technique, how to recognize the signs that it's working, and how to adjust the process to achieve maximum results in the shortest possible time. Get ready, because what you're about to discover will change your perspective on what's possible for your mind and your life. The secret that Dr. Dispenza discovered isn't just a technique. It's a new way of existing in the world, free from the limitations that once seemed permanent. And it all begins with the activation of the first neural pathway, which I'll reveal in complete detail in the next segment. What you're going to learn will change everything. Now that you understand all the science behind neuroplasticity and how your thoughts literally sculpt your brain, it's time to reveal the exact technique that will transform your mental reality. Because it's one thing to know we can change our brain patterns, it's completely different to have the precise method to make it happen. And that's exactly what I'm going to share with you now. The mental technique that Joe Dispenza developed, which thousands of people are already using to reprogram their minds in just 7 minutes each morning. Pay close attention, because I'm going to break this process down into 3 very specific steps. And when I say specific, I mean that each stage has its scientific reason for being and its exact neurological function. First, the doubt recognition protocol. The first thing you need to do is develop neurological awareness. Sounds complex, right? But it's simpler than it seems. Over the next few days, every time a doubtful thought appears in your mind, and they will appear because that's how it works, you need to pause and literally say to yourself, I recognize this old pattern. You know why this is revolutionary? Because the moment you name a thought, you activate your prefrontal cortex. It's like turning on a powerful flashlight in a dark room. Suddenly, that scary monster under the bed reveals itself to be just a pile of clothes. The limiting thought loses all its power when exposed to the light of consciousness. Dispenza discovered in his research that 95% of our thoughts are unconscious and repetitive. In other words, we're running on mental autopilot 95% of the time. But when you consciously recognize a pattern, you break that automatic cycle. It's like those who built industrial empires from scratch. Henry Ford didn't get stuck in thoughts of, this is impossible, when he invented the assembly line. He recognized these doubts and transformed them into fuel for innovation. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who settle for mediocrity lies exactly in this first step: the ability to perceive when the mind is sabotaging your dreams. Second, the mental substitution pattern. Now comes the part where true mental alchemy happens. After you've recognized the limiting thought, you can't simply leave a void there. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does your mind. It's like trying to hold a hole in water. So you're going to do something that seems simple, but is revolutionary. You're going to consciously substitute that thought with its corresponding positive version. If the thought was, I'll never make it, you immediately replace it with, I'm learning how to make it. If it was, this is too difficult for me, you change it to, I develop new skills every day. But here's the secret that most people don't understand. You can't just say it. You need to feel the truth of this new affirmation. You need to generate the emotion that corresponds to this new thought. And how do you do this? Through active visualization. Visualize yourself having already achieved what you desire. See yourself living this new reality. Feel in your body the sensation of having already reached this goal, as if you were watching a high-definition movie of your ideal life, but you're simultaneously the director, the main actor, and the audience. Thomas Edison was a master of this art. With every failure in creating the light bulb, he immediately mentally reframed it as, I've discovered one more way that doesn't work, I'm getting closer to the solution. He literally created a neural pattern of success, even before physical success appeared. Third, the daily reinforcement ritual. And here we arrive at the secret ingredient that separates dreamers from achievers: consistency. Because creating a new neural pattern is like building a new road through the untamed forest of your mind. At first, you need to cut branches, remove stones, clear the way step by step. But here's the beauty of the process. The more you travel this path, the clearer and easier the passage becomes, until one day you look and see a mental superhighway where there was once only wilderness. Every day, preferably in the morning, you're going to dedicate exactly 7 minutes to this process. 2 minutes to recognize and observe your current thought patterns without judgment. Just observing. 3 minutes to actively practice substituting limiting thoughts with positive ones, always accompanied by the corresponding emotion. And 2 final minutes to visualize with total clarity yourself already living the reality you want to create. 7 minutes might seem like too little time. That's exactly the genius behind this technique. Joe Dispenza discovered that our brain can maintain intense neural focus for approximately 7 minutes before it starts to scatter, like a professional athlete who knows exactly how far they can push before hitting the wall. So instead of fighting against this biological characteristic, he transformed it into a strategic advantage. The great inventors and visionaries who transformed our world didn't spend 8 hours a day dreaming. They had specific and intense daily rituals that programmed their minds for success. Henry Ford had his morning ritual of visualizing his assembly lines. The Wright brothers visualized their aircraft flying even before building them. Edison mentally visualized his inventions working perfectly before physically testing them. Now I know you might be thinking, but only 7 minutes. How can this transform an entire lifetime of mental patterns? And that's an excellent question. The answer lies in quality, not quantity. Think about it this way. A concentrated laser beam of a few seconds can cut steel, while diffuse sunlight for hours can barely warm a stone. 7 minutes of intense conscious neurological focus creates more brain changes than hours of passive and scattered thinking. When you practice this ritual consistently for 21 days, which is the minimum time our brain needs to start forming a new neural habit, you literally rebuild the circuits of your mind. And here's what's going to happen. In the first few days, it will feel strange, even artificial. Your mind will resist and will try to convince you that this doesn't work. That's the voice of the old pattern trying to stay alive. But if you persist, something incredible happens around day 10-12. You start to notice that negative thoughts appear less frequently. You realize you're naturally more optimistic, more confident. You begin to take actions that previously seemed impossible. And on day 21, you won't believe the person you've become, because you didn't just change your thoughts, you literally changed the physical structure of your brain. This is the promise I'm making to you today. Practice these 3 steps religiously for the next 21 days, and you won't recognize the person looking back at you in the mirror. You'll have a confidence you've never had, a mental clarity you thought was impossible, and a capacity for action that will surprise even yourself. Pedestrian, this is an important but. This only works if you actually do it. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. And you're not here to be entertained, you're here to be transformed. So make this technique your new daily ritual. Wake up 7 minutes earlier if necessary. Find a quiet place. Start today to rebuild your mental reality. As promised at the beginning, you now possess the exact 7-minute neurological protocol that Dr. Dispenza discovered, the same method that literally rebuilds the brain circuits of unshakable confidence. You've learned not just the what to do, but the scientific why behind each step. Because, as Joe Dispenza said, when you change your mind, you change your life. And when you change your life, you transform your world. The difference between those who live the life of their dreams and those who only dream about that life doesn't lie in talent, luck, or opportunities. It's in a choice as simple as it is powerful, starting today or continuing to wait for the perfect moment that never comes. Eliminate negative influences. Protect your energy, protect your mind. Surround yourself only with people who support this new version of you that's emerging. And remember, say these new affirmations with total conviction, because when you truly believe, the universe has no choice but to reflect this new reality back to you. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes that it's time for your transformation. Don't let this opportunity pass. You received something extraordinary today. Direct access to the neural reprogramming mechanisms that great visionaries in history used intuitively, but which you can now apply with scientific precision. Practice these 3 steps for the next 21 days. Watch the changes happen and share in the comments what was the first change you noticed. This helps reinforce your new neural pathways and inspires others who are starting this journey. If you feel you're ready to master other advanced neuroplasticity protocols, subscribe to the channel. Because when you transform the structure of your mind, you don't just change your life, you become a living example of what's possible for the human mind. Your new mental reality begins with the next 7 minutes.